Getting started.
Before we start on the details of the keyboard, there's a couple of things on the screen when you first turn on your Commodore 64 that I'd like to discuss. First of all, you'll notice at the top of the screen there's a message that says Commodore 64 Basic V2 64K RAM system, 38,911 basic bytes free. Now you might wonder about that. It seems that you have 64K machine, which is 64,000 bytes of memory, and yet you're being told that you have slightly less than 39,000 bytes available. Well, that's really correct. There's nothing wrong with your machine, and there's nothing missing, and you don't have to look for the parts that fell out of the box. It's all there. What happens is that BASIC itself only needs about 39,000 bytes. The extra memory is still there, but it's reserved for other uses. And you'll find that there'll be other things that you can use that memory for. 39,000 is plenty for the average program. Now, the second thing that you'll see on the screen of your computer is a flashing square. That's called a cursor, and it tells you two things. The first thing it says is the computer is waiting for you to type. And the second thing it says is when you type, that's where the character which you type will appear. And as you type, the cursor will move along to the next position so that you'll see wherever it is that the next character will go as you type it, you'll see where that will be. So it's an invitation and it's a location for you, and it's called a cursor. Now let's talk about this keyboard here. We have here that looks very much like a conventional typewriter keyboard. It has all of those letters in the center that you can never find on a typewriter, and you're going to have a good time looking for on your 64 computer. At the top you have the numeric characters, similar to on most typewriters. At the bottom is a space bar, and then we have much of the punctuation gathered around it. Now, if I decide to type, I can type a number 457, or if I decide to, I can type a bunch of characters, A, S, D, F, G, H, a very popular word. Okay, and what happens is the characters, as I type them, appear as capital letters. Now, that's quite all right, but I'd like to talk about the next most important key on the keyboard, and that is over here, there's a key marked return. Now, what this key means is really do it. If I press that key, whatever I have just typed, the computer will try to do it. Now, at the moment, I haven't typed anything very sensible on the computer screen, and so if I press return, perhaps the computer might print some error message. It tries to do it and it can't do it. Or perhaps it will do something not very sensible. It's very useful to know that when we have this return key, if we don't want to do something, but just want to go to the next line, you may hold down the shift key here, and then press the return key, and that says don't do it, just go to the next line. So return says do it, shifted return says just go to the next line, don't try to do anything that we had there. Now, there are several other important keys here, but the ones that I'd like to just mention briefly in passing is the function keys, which puzzle a lot of Commodore 64 users. They don't seem to do anything, and in fact, at the moment, they really don't do anything. They are there for your programs to recognize. When we write a program, or when we obtain a program from other places, that program will often say, press this key for this effect, press this other key for a different effect. And so what we have involved here is these keys are available for you to use. They aren't really doing anything right now. Okay, let's talk about that cursor, that flashing square on the screen. We can move it down by pressing the cursor down key. And there it moved a couple of spaces, but if we hold down the key, the cursor will continue to move. We can move it to the right by pressing the cursor right key, or we can hold it down and it will continue to move. By shifting, we can move the cursor up or to the left. And finally, near the top, we have a key which will home the cursor. The key is marked clear home. If we press it, the cursor goes to its home position, the upper left-hand part of the screen. On the other hand, if we hold down Shift and press the home key, it now becomes a clear key, and we will clear the screen. A very useful thing to do when you've got a lot of junk on the screen and you want to start over. Here we go. We have now cleared the screen on the computer. Now, at the moment, what we've been doing is we've been typing alphabetical letters on the computer. And we notice that we have a shift key. Actually, there are two, one on the left and one on the right. And we hold down the shift key. We're already typing capital letters, so we won't go from small letters to capitals, we're already there. When we hold down the Shift key, what we will do is we will type special graphics characters. You'll see them on the front of the key. If I press an A key, for example, holding down the Shift, I will see a little spade character. Or if I print the S key holding down the Shift, I will see a little heart character. So if you want to write a little program to play card games, there are at least 2 of your suits. Now there are other graphics. In fact, there were 2 graphics drawn on the front of most keys. If you notice that A has a little corner on it as well as that spade key, we can get down one by pressing the Commodore key. That's the key with a little Commodore logo to the left of the Shift key. I'll hold that down and we'll press that one, and you'll see that the other graphic comes out when I press the A key. So that's the second kind of Shift key. Now, let me press the Don't Do It key by holding down Shift and Return. And now let's try something a little bit different, because there's a new feature of the screen that many people don't know about until they stumble across it by accident. If you hold down the Shift key, and while you're holding it down, tap the Commodore key, the screen changes gears, and now instead of uppercase characters and graphics, it now has lowercase characters, small letters, and uppercase characters, big letters, which means that if we want to type in text or sentences or write a letter or things like that, we now have large and small letters, upper and lowercase. So I can now say Jack and Jill went up the hill or something along that line, and put in capital letters wherever I want to. We have that capability. You notice that that wasn't there when we turned the machine on. We did that by holding down the Shift key and tapping the Commodore key. We can go back to simple uppercase and graphics by doing it again. Hold down Shift, press Commodore, and there we are back to uppercase and graphics.